Apparently, from all the comments I received last week on my last review of Log Horizon Season 2, I'm pretty much certain that Tetra is a trap. Because there's no way in hell so many people would say that. So, I'm going to assume Tetra is a trap. And I called her, or him, Kawaii. Good job, Japan. You got me again. Okay, so anyways, this episode of Log Horizon. I want to say right now, I think this is probably by far one of my favorite episodes of Log Horizon. There's multiple reasons why I love this episode. There's probably going to be a lot of people that are not going to care about this episode, but if you're a massive MMO player, if you played a lot of MMORPGs, most likely this episode related to you on so many levels. That's exactly what this episode did to me, because I remember back in the past, when I was younger, before I got into my entire anime craze where I was watching anime a lot, I used to play MMOs all the time, mainly World of Warcraft, and to see how they were doing a full raid in this episode and how Shiro was explaining how full raids work and how the teams work, how the buffs and DPS and stuff like that was going on, I'm like, damn, this is just too good. It is too damn good, because it reminded me of my days when I used to do freaking Lich King runs all the fucking time, Lich King runs, and seeing this was just amazing. Oh my god. Like, what I really liked about it was the entire aspect of the way they really went down into the nitty-gritty of the RPG details, like a full raid. Now, there's one major difference I noticed about the team aspect of this I've never seen, like, in WoW, when I played a lot. The entire teams, how there's, like, different teams, divisions of teams, like 4 teams. Well, you have one team that's full of tanks, one team that's full of, like a seek and destroy. You have one team, I'm guessing, is the healers and buffers, and you got one team that's, like, DPS. They have the teams different, like, split off. Like, there's different teams, and I'm guessing each of these teams can see their health bars. Because if it's like WoW, it must be really hard to keep up with everybody's health bar. Because there has to actually be, if there's different teams in WoW, you have it to where there's one tank, one DPS, one buffer, like one support, and then you have one healer pretty much in a team. Usually, in a 5-man team, and then you have these different groups all in the raid. And so, to see how one group is an entire tank team, I was like, holy shit, it's completely different from what I normally see. And then the entire aspect of how you had everybody having to go in defensive formation and try to go around the boss, the different raid bosses, like different phases of a boss that was in this episode, I was like, oh my god, like, it brought back so many memories. I mean, when I saw that raid boss pop down, I just was like, shit, this is reminding me too much of my RPG days. And to see, like, this raid boss come in, they don't know what the fuck this boss is gonna do. They're talking about the strategies of what they have to do. They're having to figure out the intervals between its attacks and its attack patterns. I'm like, damn, this is too damn good. This is why I like Log Horizon. This is exactly why I love this series, because it is actually how an RPG anime should be. This is exactly how it should be, and to see how it's still sticking to those roots that it had in the first season just makes me unbelievably happy. I love it so freaking much when I see stuff like this. I mean, when you have the entire bit with the different phases of the boss, when they're fighting and all that, and he does petrify out of nowhere, they're like, holy shit, what is this? Has like an insta-kill, the healers get thrown out, everything goes into disarray, and then you have the entire bit when they're talking about, like, the entire group being wiped out. I'm like, damn, this is like, anyone that's a big lover of MMORPGs just probably had a fangasm from this episode, because the way they went into details with certain elements like that, you have to admit that the writer, at the very least, when it comes to this series, knows what a fucking RPG is, and how an RPG series should be. And honestly, all the explaining that was done in this episode, I was able to follow it clearly, because I have prior knowledge of RPGs. Anyone that probably hasn't played a lot of RPGs will probably like, okay. They probably just took it. But, I mean, I understood it clearly. I already knew what was going on when I saw the entire episode. That actually made my enjoyment factor a lot more, because I know how RPGs, and, you know, these type of raid bosses should be handled. Now, one thing, though, that got me was how long this dungeon, this raid, is taking. It's taking weeks to actually complete this one dungeon, which right there, in terms of scale, when it comes to actually raids in real RPGs, I was like, holy god, that is long. Like, usually a dungeon in MMOs could take like an hour or two, even 4 hours sometimes. It just depends on what type of game and what dungeon. I've never seen a dungeon last for fucking weeks. Holy shit. I mean, I guess you gotta go figure if it's in real life and you have to eat and take breaks and stuff. I mean, I guess it kind of makes sense, but still the point of it is 3 weeks already in the freaking dungeon. Supposedly they have like 3 or 4 more raid bosses to defeat till they get to the final boss. Is pretty freaking ridiculous. I'm just gonna say, that is ridiculous. Now, Mr. Democracy in this episode, I want to talk about him real quick. Mr. Democracy is having a little bit of a mental breakdown in this episode because Shiroi just helped him out in this episode when he was going on his little rampage, wanting to beat the shit out of slimes. You know, Shiroi buff him with his enchanter skill, and he notices this, and he's like, oh, he helped me. And then you have the entire bit where Shiroi stuns the monster, where you can attack the monster a lot easier. So yeah, you gotta love it how Mr. Democracy is actually understanding what Shiroi is doing, and he might come to respect him eventually, probably at the end of this battle. Now, I will say though, the episode, very fucking good. It was an enjoyable episode, and it looks like next week's episode is going to be shifting the focus to Akatsuki. Now, that's actually something I want to talk about. I've seen a bunch of Chibits mention and talk about how they're fitting 3 volumes of the light novel into this. Like, for instance, they're trying to adapt 3 volumes at the exact same time. Like, I don't know exactly what you guys mean by that. I want to take a quick guess, though. I'm guessing those other 2 volumes take place between whatever Shiroi is doing in these weeks' time span. For instance, how we know that 3 weeks or a couple weeks have passed while he's been doing this raid, I'm guessing those other 2 volumes take place in different sections of the world while Shiroi's in the middle of that dungeon. So I think we're going to be shifting focus over to Akatsuki while Shiroi's fighting in the dungeon, pretty much, for those 3 weeks. Which would be really cool. I like how they're handling that. As long as they're not rushing anything, I am fine with it. I'm honestly fine if they're not rushing anything. If they're doing it properly, and at the very least they're showing everything, I am fine. I mean, hey, it makes a lot more sense if they adapt it like that if you think about it, so I guess that's one thing we could be happy about. Now, the music fucking great. I love the boss music in this episode. Okay, oh, God. You know, one thing that Log Horizon Season 1 lacked a lot, it was mainly the battles. Now, I know this is not mainly based on battles, it's mainly on politics and economics and stuff, and statistics with RPGs, but to see actual raid battles in this series, it's definitely upped my overall enjoyment factor, too, of Log Horizon Season 2, because that's something Log Horizon really lacked. Boss battles. A massive boss battle, and to see how boss battles are becoming a full focus, it makes me happy. It really makes me happy, and this is one of the best episodes of Log Horizon. So, tell me your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this episode. I love you all so much. You have a wonderful day or night, wherever you live. Please be safe. Chibi out.